My brother said, "You don't belong in this family." Our parents agreed. I left without a word. Months later, I got 15 missed calls from my younger brother begging for help. The chill that ran down my spine when my own brother, with that sickeningly sweet smirk, told me I had no place in our family, was just the beginning. I thought I knew his manipulative games, but what unfolded next was a twisted web of lies and betrayal I never saw coming. "You have no place in our family," he said, crossing his arms over his chest. That smug twist on his face? By then, I knew it all too well. He said it in such a sugary sweet tone that, for a split second, I actually thought he was trying to help me out. But then Mom, who was sipping her tea at the kitchen table, chimed in, "She's right." And Dad? He didn't even look up from his phone, just grumbled, "Yeah, maybe it's better this way." I stood there, frozen, just staring at the three of them. I swear, I could practically hear the rehearsals in my brother's room, him talking them into it, the way he always did. Convincing. Charming. Scheming. All my life, I'd been the only person who didn't buy his act, and maybe, just maybe, that's why he hated me so much. I didn't leave because it hurt. Honestly? It was so preposterous, so utterly absurd, that it almost made me laugh. "Guess I'll save you the trouble," I said, grabbing my jacket off the back of the chair, and I walked out. Nobody stopped me. My brother just grinned, pleased with himself. Mom went back to her tea like she couldn't care less, and Dad? Still glued to his phone. I closed the door behind me and took a deep, shuddering breath. And you know what? The most messed up part? It barely even stung. Not the way they wanted it to, anyway. I wasn't like my brother, who lived for their approval, always basking in their praise, playing the golden child. I'd learned long ago that I wasn't their favorite. They tolerated me, sure, but love and support? That was always reserved for him. And honestly, I didn't mind. I had my own friends, my own life, my own sense of self. Still, it was a slight sting. Not them letting me go, but how easy they made it seem. No hesitation. No second thoughts. No wait, let's talk about this. Just silence. That night, I crashed with my best friend. When I told her what had happened, we just laughed about it over a bottle of cheap wine, joking about how my brother probably saw himself as the king of the family now. "Honestly, sounds like you're better off," she said, and she was right. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something about this whole thing wasn't just about me. My brother, Patrick, had been leading up to this for months, making those little comments to our parents about how I didn't fit in or that I wasn't like them. It wasn't good enough for him to be the favorite, he wanted me out. 2 days later, I saw their suitcases by the front door. They were packing for a family vacation, and I hadn't even known they were planning it. Of course, my brother was making a huge show of it, loudly giving directions and supervising my parents. I watched from the stairs, and he just kept looking at me, expecting some kind of reaction. When I said nothing, he finally turned. "So, you're just going to sit here all alone? What are you going to do without us?" I smiled. Calm. Unconcerned. The way I knew would annoy him the most. "I hope they take you to a hospital for the mentally ill on this trip. Maybe they'll have room for Mom and Dad, too." In an instant, his face went scarlet. The next thing I knew, he was screaming, tears streaming down his face. My parents immediately rushed to comfort him, looking at me as if I had just committed a crime. "You're so cruel," my mother sighed, shaking her head. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" I just shrugged. Because I'd rather be sane. When they left, I felt nothing but relief. The house was finally quiet, genuinely peaceful for the first time in years. No more constant criticism, no more of my brother's eternal games. I grabbed a bowl of popcorn, curled up on the couch, and watched my favorite TV shows, welcoming the silence. But peace never lasts in a family like mine. Of course. It was absolute bliss for 2 days. No yelling, no snide comments, no exhausting power plays. I stayed in the house like it was my personal retreat, playing my favorite music, dancing in the kitchen, catching up on all the things I couldn't enjoy when they were around. Then, the calls started. The first one came at 10 a.m. I was making pancakes, my phone buzzing on the counter. It was Patrick. I just rolled my eyes and silenced it. Whatever drama he'd gotten himself into, I really didn't want to hear it. The second came 5 minutes later. Then the third. By the time I finished eating, I had 7 missed calls. I stared at my ringing phone, weighing the pros and cons of blocking his number forever. Yet, a part of me was curious. What could be so urgent that he couldn't just text? The 8th call. That's when I answered. Mostly to tell him to leave me alone. What? I asked, a thick layer of annoyance in my voice. Where are you? He shrieked. I have been calling you for hours. Why didn't you pick up? Because I don't care, I said flatly. What do you want? We're in trouble, he said, his voice shaking. I need your help. Define trouble, I said, leaning back against the counter. He hesitated. Which was never a good sign. My brother never hesitated unless he was about to lie. We got robbed, he finally blurted out. I raised an eyebrow. You got robbed? On your perfect little family vacation? Yes, he growled. Some guy stole all our money. Mom and Dad are freaking out, and we're stuck here with no money. I didn't know who else to call. Now I was genuinely curious. Why not call Margaret? I asked, referring to his wife. His silence told me all I needed to know. Oh, I said, a grin slowly, deliciously spreading across my face. You didn't tell him, did you? What happened? Did the guy steal more than your money? Shut up, he hissed. This isn't funny. I laughed. Oh, it's hilarious. Let me guess, you went somewhere you shouldn't have, and now you're too embarrassed to admit it? Am I close? Silence again. Then, are you going to help us or not? I thought about it for a moment. On the one hand, this was exactly the kind of mess he deserved. On the other hand, there was something deeply satisfying about watching him squirm. Let me think about it, I said. Meanwhile, perhaps you can ask one of those locals that you like to hang around with to help? I'm sure they'd be more than pleased to help. Oh, wait. He started screaming at me, but before I heard the rest, I hung up. For the next couple of hours, my phone exploded. His calls. My parents' calls. Texts. Please, we need your help. Send money before the end of the day. There were all variations of this message. I had 15 missed calls and a voicemail from my mother where she tried to guilt-trip me. I thought you were better than this. We're your family. I couldn't stop laughing. Family? I muttered to myself. Didn't you just tell me I have no place in this family? I texted a simple reply to my brother, sorry, but I'm just a roommate, remember? Then, I turned my phone off. 2 days into the endless calls, I woke up to one text. From my brother. It wasn't a wall of emojis or some kind of threat, which is what I'd been bracing for. It was just, we're coming home. Thanks for nothing. I stared at it for a moment, then shrugged, and went about my day. Whatever mess they'd gotten themselves into, it wasn't my problem. I didn't owe them anything, especially after what they'd said to me. It wasn't until later that they finally returned. Before I even saw them, I heard them. Car doors slamming shut. My mom yelling, loud as ever, about luggage. My dad murmuring something under his breath. And, of course, my brother made the most dramatic entrance. He stamped into the house, red-faced and furious, his wife Margaret scurrying behind him, struggling with suitcases. Margaret nodded at me in that little, knowing acknowledgement as she passed me down the hall. Of the few people in this family I respected, she was one of them. Maybe it's because she always seemed to see through my brother's nonsense, or maybe it's because deep down, she knew I was right. Once they were inside, my brother spun around to face me, his face a mask of rage. You're unbelievable, he snapped, jabbing a finger in my direction. We needed you, and you just ignored us. I leaned back against the wall and crossed my arms. I'm sorry, I said, though my tone made it crystal clear that I wasn't. I didn't know roommates were supposed to cover each other's holidays. My dad glared at me. This isn't a joke, he said. We were stranded in a foreign country. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to beg for help? Humiliating? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You mean, like being told you had no place in your own family? Because I wouldn't know anything about that. My mother let out a frustrated sigh. Why must you always be so impossible? We are your family, and families assist one another. Oh, now we're family, I said, smiling. That's rich. Last week, I was nothing but a burden. Or have you forgotten? My brother stopped pacing like a caged animal, then exploded. You're such a child. Do you know how much stress you've caused us? Do you even care? I stared directly at him. No, I don't. And you know why? Because you don't care about me. You never have. All you've ever done is bring me down, and now you want me to get you out of this trouble? Sorry. I'm done. The room went silent. For once, my brother didn't have anything to say. My mom looked like she had the urge to speak, but for once, she couldn't find the words. Then Margaret, who had been quietly unpacking by the door, spoke up. He's right. Everyone looked at her. What? My brother snapped, his voice rising. He's right, Margaret repeated, calmly but firmly. You treat him like garbage, and then you wonder why he won't help you. Maybe if you respected him a little more, he'd feel differently. The silence in the room was so thick, you could hear a pin drop. My brother looked as though he'd been slapped. I can't believe you're taking his side. I'm not taking sides, Margaret said. I'm just saying, you can't treat people like they're nothing and then expect them to come running when you're in trouble. For the first time in years, I felt like someone had finally, truly seen me. But of course, the moment didn't last. My dad, ever the peacemaker, intervened. Look, we've all been through a lot this week, he said. Let's just move on and try to put this behind us. Sure, I said, grabbing my bag from the couch. Let's put it behind us. In fact, let's put it all behind us. Because I'm done. Done? My mom asked, frowning. I'm moving out, I said. I'm packing my things tonight. My brother rolled his eyes. Oh, please. You've said that before. This time, I mean it, I said. And I'm not coming back. I went upstairs before they could say anything else, leaving them in stunned silence. That night, I packed my bags and called my grandmother, the only sane person in our family, as far as I'd ever known. When I told her what had happened, she didn't seem surprised. Come stay with me, she said. You don't need them. And just like that, I was free. The next morning, I didn't even say goodbye. I just left the house. My grandmother lived an hour away, in this cozy little cottage on the edge of a small town called Mitchellston, the kind of place where neighbors bring over pies for no reason and everyone knows your name. When I got there, she greeted me with a warm hug and a plate of cookies, as she always did. You're better off without them, she said, patting my hand. Stay as long as you need to. I honestly thought that was it. Finally free from my family's chaos, finally able to breathe. But of course, it wasn't that simple. 2 days into my new home, I received a call from an unknown number. I ignored it at first, assuming it was just another scam. But when the same number dialed again, something told me to answer. Hello? I said carefully. Is this my name? A man's voice asked. It sounded official, almost too serious. Yes, who's asking? This is Detective Perkins with the county police, he said. We're investigating a report that involves your family. My stomach dropped. What kind of report? Your brother has filed a complaint against you, he said in a neutral voice. He says that you threatened his safety before he left on vacation. I'm going to ask you a few questions. For 1 second, I thought he was kidding. Threats? I said, laughing out loud. You've got to be kidding me. That's a lie. I understand this is quite a shock, he said, his voice measured. But we must take each complaint seriously. Can you make your way to the station tomorrow morning? I just hung up. My head was reeling with thoughts. A new low for my brother, to actually file a police report against me. Was he looking to have me arrested? I told my grandmother the story, to which she just shook her head. That boy has no shame, she said. But don't worry, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. Let's go fix this. The next day, we went to the police station. Detective Perkins was nothing like I'd anticipated. He was young, sharp-eyed, and surprisingly kind. He asked me a few questions until it was painfully obvious that my brother's story simply wouldn't fly. He said you threatened to hurt him, he explained, but when we asked for details, he couldn't give us any. His story kept changing. Of course, I said. He's lying. He nodded. That's what it looks like. Frankly, it looks like a personal vendetta. We're dropping the case, but I wanted to warn you, people like this don't give up easily. You might want to keep your distance. I thanked him and left, feeling a strange mixture of relief and anger. My brother had always been manipulative, but this? This was next level. When I reached my grandmother's house, she handed me a letter. This came for you while you were away, she said. It was from Margaret, my brother's wife. I opened it, confused. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. I need to talk to you. It's important. Call me. I stared at the note, my heart pounding. Why would Margaret reach out to me? What could be so important? Despite my better judgment, I called her. Thank God, she said when she picked up. I didn't know if you'd even read the letter. What's going on? I asked, suspiciously. It's your brother, she said, her voice tense. He's hiding something. Something big. I don't know who else to turn to. What do you mean, he's hiding something? I pressed, but she was indecisive. I don't want to say too much over the phone. Can we meet in person? I almost said no. After everything my brother had pulled, the last thing I wanted was to be dragged deeper into his mess. But something in Margaret's voice caught me. She sounded desperate. Fine, I said. But this better be good. We decided to meet at a diner off the highway the following morning. When I walked in, she was already there, looking much more anxious than I'd ever seen her. She waved for me to sit, and as soon as I did, she leaned in close, her voice barely a whisper. Your brother lied to everybody, she said. About everything. Tell me something I couldn't have already fathomed, I said with an eye roll. No, I mean everything, she said, her voice urgent. The robbery. It wasn't random at all. He planned it. My blood ran cold. What are you talking about?